Something's definitely stirring in Australian politics. A recent poll shows a pretty major surge in support for Pauline Hanson's One Nation party. So what's going on here? In this explainer, we're going to break down the key arguments the party is making to really get a handle on why their message seems to be hitting home with more and more voters.
Okay, let's just put this number front and center. 24%. According to a recent Resolve Political Monitor poll, that's where One Nation's primary vote is sitting. Now, a figure like that, well, it's a pretty big deal. It suggests a real shift is happening. So let's dig into the reasons why.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why now? To understand this surge, we're going to look directly at the key themes and arguments at the very heart of Pauline Hanson's platform, the stuff she believes is connecting with voters.
All right, so the first piece of the puzzle, according to One Nation, is this direct challenge to the political establishment. The whole idea is that this momentum is coming from a widespread feeling that the major parties, well, they just aren't listening to everyday Australians anymore.
And you can hear it right there in her own words. It's all about this fundamental disconnect. The whole narrative points to this deep discontent, arguing that people don't just feel ignored, they're genuinely hurting because of the way things are being run.
So what does that hurt actually mean? Well, according to Hanson, it's all about these immense pressures people are facing at home, and it all starts with the rising cost of living.
Now, what's interesting is how the party links a few key issues together. One Nation argues that this cost of living crisis is being made way worse by high levels of migration and current climate change policies. And Hanson points to really stark examples, people living in cars and tents, as proof of this growing hardship.
And that leads us straight into another central pillar of the One Nation platform, the impact that migration is having on housing and just getting access to essential services. To back this claim up, she points to data from the Institute of Public Affairs. It found that net arrivals hit nearly 500,000 in the 12 months to January. That's a record high. And that number is absolutely crucial to her entire argument.
You can see right here how the party draws a direct line between these issues. The argument they're making is that these record migration figures are a primary cause of the housing crisis, pushing rents through the roof and making homeownership an impossible dream for a lot of people.
But the platform isn't just about economic issues. It also gets into national security, with a really specific focus on what Hanson describes as the threat of radical Islam. Hanson points to some recent violent events as major catalysts. Things like the Bondi Beach attack and the stabbing of Bishop Mari Emanuel, which was all over social media. One Nation frames these incidents as a massive wake-up call about security risks and the influence of radical Islam in Australia.
From there, she broadens this out into a warning for the future. She argues that if Australia doesn't change course, it risks ending up with what she calls no-go zones and Sharia law courts, just like the social divisions she claims are already happening in places like England, France, and Canada.
Okay, let's shift gears from domestic issues to the world stage. One Nation's platform also raises some big questions about Australia's foreign policy, our key alliances, and our ability to actually defend ourselves.
So the backdrop for this part of the argument is some recent commentary from Donald Trump. Hanson interprets his remarks as a criticism of allies like Australia, suggesting that maybe the U.S. doesn't see them as reliable partners anymore.
But Hanson offers a completely different take on how an ally should behave. She's basically saying that instead of waiting around to be asked, a true mate just proactively picks up the phone to offer help. It's a call for a much more assertive, engaged foreign policy.
And really, this is the bottom line. It goes beyond just alliances. The argument is that Australia has to invest more in its own defense. She's really critical of government spending on other things, like climate initiatives, when, from her perspective, our national sovereignty is what's really at stake.
So this all kind of feeds into her final pitch. She calls the major political parties a uniparty, claiming they're just two sides of the same coin, offering the same policies and, therefore, no real solutions. Her message is simple. If you want things to actually be different, you can't keep voting for the same people.
And at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. The party is positioning itself as the only genuine alternative. Its core message is all about patriotism and a promise to fight for the interests of Australians who feel like they've been completely left behind by the political elite.
A polling surge like this is a pretty strong signal that a big chunk of the electorate is looking for change. So the question this raises isn't just about one party's platform, but what this demand for change might actually mean for the future of Australian politics.